So guys, March of Machines is nearly here, and today we are going through my top 10 cards for Standard. Okay, let's get into it. Starting off at number 10, we have Palukranos Reborn. This is actually a really good green card. I think green's going to make a decent comeback in March of Machines. So we've got a triple green card, 4/5 with reach. This is actually pretty good. You know, I think a 3-mana 4/5 has reach. You're able to block, you know, really annoying flies, creatures, can get in that damage. I think overall that is pretty good. There are a lot of green cards actually coming out in this set. Trying to fight for that 3-drop. This is going to be good for like an aggressive style deck. And then you can pay the mana to then transform it. Then when it transforms, it turns into Palukranos Engine of Ruin. I really rate this. This is a 6/6 reach lifelink, so gets a bit bigger, gains lifelink, which is unusual for like a green card, right? Whenever itself or another non-token Hydra dies, you get to create a 3/3 Hydra with lifelink and a 3/3 Hydra with reach. This is pretty cool. Now, back in the day, we had Whamcoil Engine, you know, which was a 6-mana 6/6 Death Touch lifelink. And when it died, it split, so you had a 3/3 with lifelink and a 3/3 with Death Touch. This is kind of similar, you know, a little bit different, but kind of similar. Because obviously you start for Palukranos and you want to try and get, you know, that mana to then flip it. I think this is very strong, you know, in an aggressive style deck, or even kind of a defensive style deck. But triple green, you're going offensive, right? You're getting in there, you want to get that damage done. And if they do kill this, it replaces itself, so it makes it really sticky to, you know, deal with. Pretty good, you know, but like I say, I think in that 3-drop slot in green, you're fighting and competing with other cards, but this is a really nice one to have. So I'm looking forward to playing it. Coming number 9, we have Angel Elspith. Now, I would put this higher on the list. However, there are some really, really good cards, you know, coming out in this set. So Elspith is pretty cool. It's a nice, good, strong planeswalker. 4 mana. You know, you get to create a token with lifelink. Okay, so you can get in that damage. You can protect it. It's pretty good. Then -2, you put 2+1/+1 counters on a creature you control. It gains flying and becomes an angel. Okay, pretty decent. And then -6, you get to return all non-land permanents with convert mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. This is actually a pretty decent ability. You know, that ultimate is very, very nice. Thing is, though, right now, I think the Wandering Emperor is probably still going to see more play than Elspith. Don't get me wrong, you'll probably play both, but the Wandering Emperor, as long as it's still in Standard, is just better than Elspith. Elspith is pretty decent. I do feel like it should have had maybe a passive ability, maybe 4 abilities even, but it's still not too bad, right? It's not a bad planeswalker. Being able to protect itself, being able to get the extra bit of damage in is pretty good going. So, but yeah, I like this planeswalker. I think it will find a home maybe in mono white, maybe in a control style strategy. I like the idea of probably just playing it in a mono white strategy to bring back all those non-land permanents that might be in the graveyards. So overall, I would put it in at number 9. Still very strong, and I think it will still find a home somewhere in Standard. Next up, we have Urbrask coming in. So this is the Red Praetor. I do feel like Urbrask is pretty strong. Probably the strongest version of Urbrask we've seen, right? 4 mana 4/4 with First Strike, and then whenever you cast instant sorcery spell, you get to deal 1 damage to target opponent, and then you get to add a red. So let's say you cast a Lightning Strike, you get 1 refunded, you know, deal 1 damage to them. Pretty good. You can just, you know, pile this on. Maybe you could, you know, play a lot of cheap spells to add loads of, you know, mana and stuff like that. You know, you cast maybe Consider, you get a red mana, you dome them for 1, you know, you can start chaining off these bunch of different spells. I think it's pretty good. I also feel like you can just jam him in a, you know, basically just a normal mono red shell, whether it be like a big red style deck or anything like that. You know, I think you can just jam him in loads of different places, However, to flip him, it does require a little bit of effort. That is if you cast 3 or more instant sorcery spells in the same turn. That's not the easiest to do. You kind of have to have a decent amount of card draw to have, you know, a build up of that much, you know, cheap maybe, you know, spells to cast in one turn. So it is a big ask for this, but it is still really good. But then when you do transform him, he turns into the Great Work, which does 3 damage to target opponent and each creature they control. So you'll be able to just wipe the board, you know, of all their small little things. In the second mode, you get to make some treasure tokens, which could be quite nice, cast on those instant sorcery spells again. And then until the end of turn, you may cast instant sorcery spells from your graveyard, which is very good. Basically, they have flashback, which I think is very, very strong. This is a really good, strong, you know, Saga side, but it does need work to flip Urbrask, and I think that might be a little bit too much. I still think it is a very strong card, and we'll see play in Standard. So in number 7, we have Tribute to the World Tree. Again, another triple green card. And I think this is actually a very strong enchantment. When a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you get to draw a card if its power is 3 or greater. Otherwise, put 2+1/+1 counters on it. Insane, right? Insane. Play this on turn 3. Maybe turn 4, you might want to play Palukranos as an example. You get to draw a card. Okay, cool. You could play this, and then maybe you have a little 1-drop or a 2-drop. It's going to get bigger. You know, you have something like an Evolving Adaptive, it comes into play, it becomes a 3/3. That's still not bad, you know, it buffs up all your creatures. Don't forget, if you have 2 of these out, then it gets real crazy, right? Could you imagine turn 3, you play this, turn 4, you play this, and let's say you do play an Evolving Adaptive. That Evolving Adaptive is going to come in as a 5/5, like, that ain't nothing to, you know, complain about, right? That's really, really strong. So it was really good enchantment, it amplifies everything. Maybe see sideboard play in best of 3, but probably we'll see play in best of 1 just because it is pretty good, right? It gives you card draw and makes your creatures bigger, especially your smaller ones. I really rate it. I think it's really cool, and I think mono green's gonna make a comeback. I genuinely do. I think it's going to be very cool, and I'm excited to play some decks with this. Next up, we have City on Fire. Now, this is a big red enchantment, and I think this is going to see some decent amount of play. This is a really strong, powerful ability. You convoke it out, so you can get it out cheaper, because 8 mana is expensive. If a source you control would deal damage, it deals triple that damage instead. But yeah, really, really powerful. You're able to, you know, get some creatures out to make it cheaper with Convoke. You obviously favor the Mirror Breaker, which happens to make 2 creatures, you know, from the Goblin and then itself. So you can get creatures out pretty easy. Don't forget Convoke, you can tap even if you have Summoning Sickness. Very, very strong. Once you have this out, it's super scary. Like, super, super scary. Could you imagine you have this and Urbrask, and like you just cast a Lightning Strike and you just dome them for 12 damage? How insane is that? So yeah, this is going to be pretty interesting. Hopefully, you know, you can get this out, you know, I would say mid-game-ish. You know, you can probably get on turn 4, turn 5 in most strategies. So, in fact, you'll probably get out maybe even faster. You know, turn 3, Mirror Breaker, maybe turn 1, play a creature, turn 2, play a creature. You could get that on turn 4, turn 5 on average. But yeah, very strong, really scary for your opponent to deal with. I wouldn't play too many copies though, maybe 1 or 2, but I do feel like this is a really strong, powerful card in red deck. Okay, then we have Thalia and the Gitrog monster. I really rate this card. I really, really do. A 4 mana 4/4 with First Strike and Death Touch. It allows you to play an additional land every turn. Creatures and non-basic lands your opponents control in the battlefield tapped. There are a ton of decks out there at the moment that do play a bunch of non-basic lands. You know, unless you're playing against mono white or you're playing against mono black or mono red. But apart from that, a lot of decks do, right? Esper, Grixis, even Azorius Soldiers play a bunch of non-basic lands, and also making all of your opponent's creatures come play tapped is also really good, right? So I really do rate this. And then when it attacks, you get to sacrifice a creature or a land, and you get to draw a card. So it's got built-in card advantage as well. You know, sacrifice a creature or a land, cool. You can maybe sacrifice maybe some tokens you've generated from a wedding announcement. You can find so many different ways to just sacrifice creatures to get some card draw. But this is a big, big card. You know, getting in the damage, we know First Strike and Death Touch is awkward to fight through. It does do something immediately when it enters play. It doesn't have ETB itself, but the fact that you get to play additional land is very cool, right? You get to ramp as well. Very, very awesome card. So good in mid-range decks, good in, you know, maybe top end of kind of aggressive style decks. This triple colors is Abzan, so it's only really going to find a home in Abzan decks or maybe 4 color decks, you know, with a Traxxas or something like that. This is still a really strong card, and I'm looking forward to playing with it. Right, in at number 4, we have Wrenn and Realmbreaker. This is a very strong Planeswalker. Being able to protect itself is very key. So 3 mana, 4 loyalty, which is strong, you know, for a Planeswalker, just in general, in other formats, let alone in standard. And then we have +1, you get to make a, you know, a land, a 3/3 creature with Vigilance and Hexproof and Haste, so you can get in some damage, which I do think is pretty good. It doesn't untap the land, so the land has to already be untapped for it to really be useful. But it's still pretty good, right? You're on the play, turn 3. Most things are probably not killing this on turn 3. It is good. So -2, you mill 3 cards, and you may put a permanent card milled this way into your hand. So maybe you can get some lands, maybe you can get a creature or another planeswalker or whichever. Most of the time it's probably going to be a land, but in that mid to late game it could end up being creatures, which I quite like. And -7, you get an emblem where it allows you to play lands and permanents from your graveyard. This is a very strong planeswalker. Being able to come down on turn 3, you go up to 5 loyalty, has a way to protect itself and to get in for some damage. Also allows you to get graveyard recursion and good advantage from milling cards and stuff. This has the package. It fixes your mana problems as well if you do want to play, you know, more than just one color. So would this see a home in other decks than mono green? Yeah, I could see playing this in an Atraxa deck, a 4 color deck, because it fixes all your mana problems. You might not have to play so many awkward lands. It then also allows you to obviously bring back stuff from the graveyard, which is quite nice. I can see this in maybe like a Golgari shell. I can see this in a red-green shell. There's so many places Wrenn can see play. It is that strong. So It would be higher up on this list, but there are some cards in the set which are just really good. Speaking of really good, in at number 3 we have Pylon, which is a very, very strong removal spell. 3 colorless, 1 black. You get to destroy target creature or planeswalker, then surveil 2, and it has Convoke. This is really, really good. I think this is a very strong card. Very good removal spell. As we know, Convoke is a very strong mechanic. So being able to just tap a bunch of creatures and just kill something is very good. So most of the time you're probably playing this with like maybe 2 mana, you know, I would say on average. 2 mana to destroy a target creature or planeswalker, and then you get to surveil. Really good card advantage. Very, very strong. The ability for it to be, the fact it's instant as well, makes it even better. You know, I would think this could have been a sorcery and it still probably would have seen play, but it being an instant is the real deal, guys. So I expect to see this quite a bit. I mean, already you're seeing loads of cut downs and go for the throats and infernal grasps, you know, in mono black decks or just black X decks. And this is going to see play again. You might not see all 4 copies because it does have a higher mana cost. It does involve creatures. I think you're going to maybe see 2 copies in every single deck, maybe even 3 copies. That ability to deal with planeswalkers is very, very good. Right, coming into number 2, we have the new Ellis Norn. I really rate this card. I actually read this wrong. The first time I saw this and I reviewed this card, I actually read it wrong. So it is a 4 mana 3/5 with Vigilance. Then whenever a source an opponent controls deals damage to you or a permanent you control, that source's controller loses 2 life unless they pay 1. Now I thought it was just ward, but it's not actually ward. It's when they deal damage. Okay, so they can use kill spells and kill stuff, but it's whenever they deal damage, so it makes blocking and attacking super awkward for your opponent. Like really, really awkward. Like, could you imagine you just have like a bunch of tokens out or a bunch of creatures out and they want to wipe the board with a Brotherhood's End, or they want to destroy the board with a burn down the house, and you're sitting there thinking, okay, cool, you're going to either have to pay a lot of mana or you're going to lose a lot of life. You know, it makes, you know, like I say, attacking and blocking really awkward for your opponent. And this is just a good body. You know, 4 mana 3/5 is very, very strong. And as we've seen with cards like Sheoldred, that it doesn't need to do anything. It doesn't have to have an ETB immediately. And Sheoldred is a creature where if left unchecked, it's a pain, right? Whereas this is going to be the same. This is going to be really awkward for your opponent to deal with. And then when you flip it, it's going to be really, really strong. And you need 3 other creatures, so probably a token style strategy with this. This is going to be really strong. Because when it turns on the other side, you get a bunch of tokens. You get basically 5 2/2s, which again replenishes the fact that you've just sacrificed 3 creatures to transform this. Then your creatures get +1/+1 and double strike until the end of turn, so you can just get in there for that ton of damage. And then after that, you just one-sided board sweep your opponent. You destroy all other opponents except for artifacts, lands, and frictions. You just absolutely destroy it. And then guess what? It then turns back into Ellis Norn again. You know, absolutely bonkers. This is a really good card, so I'm looking forward to playing this. I feel like it's going to be one of the strongest creatures in the set, but we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, really, really cool. And then finally, in at number 1, we have the new Sheoldred. Now, Sheoldred's already strong. You know, Sheoldred the Apocalypse, as we know, guys, is incredibly powerful. This Sheoldred, though, is going to be just as strong. So 5 mana for a 4/5 with Menace. And when it enters the battlefield, your opponent sacrifices a non-token creature or a planeswalker. So it's kind of like an Eldest Reborn, if you remember that card, where you make him sacrifice, and then it has all the different modes. Well, when this transforms, you're going to get the modes right. 5 mana to transform it, but you can only do it if your opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard. That's actually pretty easy. Like, that's not a huge requirement. You're looking at that mid to late game anyway. It's 5 mana. Playing black, most of the stuff's going to be going into your opponent's graveyard. This automatically puts something in your opponent's graveyard if they've got a creature or a planeswalker. But yeah, this is really good. Menace is actually pretty relevant as well. Didn't really need Death Touch, even though the last one had Death Touch. Menace just means it can get in there and deal that little bit of extra damage. But then when it transforms, this is the strongest out of all of them. This is the strongest out of all the sagas that we've seen. The true scriptures. So for each opponent, destroy up to 1 target creature or planeswalker. So you've already made them sacrifice a creature or a planeswalker. Then probably the following turn, you're going to then activate it, and then you get to destroy another creature or planeswalker. Your opponent's thinking, what on earth's going on? And then the second mode is they have to discard 3 cards. 3 cards. That is game ending. Like, that is honestly game ending. And then they mill 3. Okay, I don't really care about the mill side, but them discarding 3 cards is backbreaking. It really is. And then the third ability is then you just get to put all their creatures off the battlefield under your control. So you've just completely wiped out their hand. So the chance of them having a board sweeper is pretty much non-existent. And then finally, you get all that stuff back. What is this? Like, this is really good. This is really, really good. So, you know, following this up with Sheoldred, you go Sheoldred turn 4, this Sheoldred in turn 5, turn 6, you flip this. I think your opponent's going to have a really bad problem, you know, really, really strong. So, yeah, I'm really excited to play this card. Mono black, your green black, Grixis, I mean, control decks even. I would even play this in a control deck, you know, as my potential control deck finisher, because it's that good, you know. So yeah, this is actually really cool. I'm really looking forward to playing this. So that's my #1 pick for March of the Machines Standard. There you have it, guys. Those are my top 10 picks for March of the Machines. Let me know down in the comments what your top 10 would be. I'd be really interested to see what your guys' opinions are. But I think this is strong. Sheoldred incredibly strong. The new Ellis Norn's really good. I know people are super excited for Urbrask. It'll be really interesting to see. You know, there's some other good cards which didn't make it on the list, which I'm an R in, so there's a lot of cards. The new Sword's really good as well. So there's some really good cards that are coming out, which could, you know, see play and, you know, could be on this list. But I had to pick 10, so these are the ones I went for. If you made it this far into the video, guys, and you've enjoyed it, make sure to smash that like button and make sure to subscribe for more Magic content. If you want to know the best multicolored cards to play in Standard for March Machines, make sure to click on this video right here. If you watch more Magic content, of course, you know, hit that subscribe button. Right, guys, that's it from me in this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.